Senate Reapportionment and Redistricting Committee meeting. This morning, we are going to hear from the minority leader, and she will be presenting her plan. After that, we will be taking action on a map. For the public, thank you all for being here. Thank you to everyone who came yesterday and offered your input. We're not having public comments today, but if you haven't had an opportunity to speak, you can still submit your comments online. We review those constantly, and I've even as early as this morning, I was checking those comments. So I appreciate everyone who's taken the time to do that, taking the time to have your voice heard, and we will continue to log those comments today as well. As we do all of our Senate committee meetings, we'll open up with a word of prayer. So I would like to ask Leader Gooch, would you be willing to open us up in a word of prayer?
I will.
What number?
Number 10. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning, God. We ask for your guidance. We ask for your wisdom. Lord, as we seek what's best for the citizens of Georgia, God, we ask for your blessings around our state and around our nation and our world, God, as we look for peace throughout our people of the lands. Be with us as we travel through the day and as we go home to our families. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. So, Leader, yes?
Is there a reason why we're not having public comments?
We had public comment yesterday and passed around the sheet during the meeting to allow anyone the opportunity to sign up to
Okay, but if
speak
people are
yesterday.
here today that weren't here yesterday, are they not, why aren't they allowed to give public comments?
Everyone who signed up yesterday was given an
So, but
opportunity.
you're saying there's no public comments today?
Yes, and yesterday I said that the public comment was closed, the
Oh.
public comment portion.
For yesterday's meeting. So today's meeting is a new meeting, a new day, new maps, and I'm asking about public comments today for this meeting.
Yeah, so yesterday we received public comment and we closed public comment. Today we've taken the time to hear the minority leader's map and her plan. We'll have discussion amongst the committee, and anyone who hasn't had the opportunity can submit their comment on the public portal. So
Madam Chair, we have two
I just don't understand.
presenting process for Republicans and process for Democrats.
I'm sorry.
Is that my understanding, that we have two processes that we are following?
No, ma'am. There's not two processes.
Well, yesterday you had public comment. You closed the public comment for yesterday. And today is a new day with a new map. And so we should follow the same process.
And it's for the people to have a voice.
Chairman, would it not be appropriate for the members of the committee to ask questions at the appropriate time? So that you're not cutting off debate of the committee members. You're just not having another public hearing today. So
She's not having-
the committee members will be given ample time to ask questions and make comments, but it's not a public hearing for the public input. That portion of the process was done yesterday. Today's meeting is to follow the agenda that is here before us, and then members will be given plenty of time to discuss either map and have plenty of time for questions and answers. Is that correct?
But we didn't have questions, the
It's
committee
still a
didn't
new
give input
process.
yesterday though. So is it like part two is for committee members? Because we didn't comment yesterday. We had no time to
Senator,
dialogue
are you-
yesterday.
Are you a member of this committee?
I am.
You'll be given plenty of chances for questions.
Okay, how about how many people who were not here yesterday would like
I
to
can talk anytime
to
'cause
make
I'm a
public
senator. I don't
comment?
have to wait for committee.
You spoke yesterday.
Not on today's map. Not on today's map.
So,
We reserved our testimony for today's map until we came to this.
so after the minority leader presents her map, we will open up public comment for anyone who didn't have the opportunity to speak yesterday.
So, just real quick, you had three people raise their hand?
Well, there was, yeah, one who wasn't here, who didn't speak yesterday.
So it's still a different process. You can pick and choose who can speak. You didn't do that yesterday. You didn't pick and choose the people in the public that would speak. But today, you get to pick and choose. And today, you get to ask, the committee get to ask questions. But yesterday, the committee didn't get to ask questions because we were prepared to ask questions.
Yeah. Madam Leader, yesterday you were given the opportunity to present your map, and you chose to do that today. Yesterday, we heard from everyone who signed up to present their map, to present their public comment yesterday. Today, I'm allowing anyone who wasn't able to present yesterday, who wasn't here, to make their public comment, and we'll be happy to take those public comments then.
Madam Chair, the people that made public comment yesterday commented on a different bill. Today, it's a new bill, and they should have the opportunity to comment on the new bill.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, was there anything that precluded members of the public yesterday from commenting on the map that's being presented today? Madam Chair, you released your map
On
When?
Monday.
on Monday. When was this map released?
I believe it was Tuesday. It was posted Tuesday.
So members of the public had the opportunity to comment on both maps as they were both publicly available prior to yesterday. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just one other point. In fact, I think Madam Chair, some of the comments that were made by the public yesterday, in fact, addressed the map of the Democrats
That is
because
correct.
it had been previously released and was in the public for at least maybe 2 days.
Okay, so at this point in time, I think it's appropriate for the minority leader to present your map.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Gloria Butler. I'm the minority leader of the Georgia Senate Democrats. Today, we are here to discuss the Democratic proposal for redrawing the Senate's legislative map in accordance with the federal court order, and more importantly, in accordance with the Voting Rights Act. The Democratic caucus recognizes that fair maps are crucial to ensuring that every vote in Georgia counts equally and that no voter in Georgia is subject to discrimination in the election process. Therefore, we have not taken the federal court's order lightly. Last month, Judge Jones issued a 516-page order which found that the 2021 map proposed and passed by Senate Republicans violated the Voting Rights Act and discriminated against black voters. Specifically, the court identified Senate Districts 10, 16, 17, 25, 28, 30, 34, 35, 43, and 44 as the areas in which the map violated the Voting Rights Act. To remedy this violation, the court ordered that the Senate enact a map that includes 2 additional majority black districts, specifically in the area identified by the court. To be clear, the court's order contained 2 directives. First, that 2 new majority black districts be created, and second, that the new majority black districts be created in the vote dilution area that the court identified as not providing black voters with an equal opportunity to elect the candidates of their choice. The Republican proposal for a new Senate map does not follow the court's directive. In truth, the map proposed by Republicans fails to comply with the Voting Rights Act and continues to dilute the voting power of black voters in South Metro Atlanta. In many ways, the Republican proposal is a hoax. In the Pacific area where the court found voting rights violation, the majority's proposal moved nearly as many black residents out of existing majority districts, black districts, as it moves into majority black districts. This means that a net of only approximately 3,000 black voters in the vote dilution area identified by the court were moved into majority black districts. Republicans try to cover up this hoax with smoke and mirrors. They attempt to obscure what has been done in this map by reassigning the district numbers of multiple existing incumbents. But you can't obscure the truth. The Republican proposals dilute black voting power just like the 2021 Republican map did. The Republican proposal does little, if anything, to improve black voters' ability to elect candidates of their choice. Given this, the Democratic caucus presents an alternative map that it believes should be adopted instead because it actually complies with the Voting Rights Act and specifically complies with the federal court's order. I will begin by describing how our proposal complies with the federal court's order and expands black voters' opportunity to elect candidates of their choice as ordered by the court. To start, the Democratic map does exactly what the court orders demand. It draws 2 additional majority black districts in the vote dilution area where the court specifically found violations of the Voting Rights Act. In our proposal, the 16th and 17th districts are new majority black districts, and all of the proposed changes in our map are made in the area identified by the court. In that area, our proposal brings almost 150,000 black residents that currently live in non-majority black districts into majority black districts. Our proposal does not move any black voters out of majority black districts into non-majority black districts. Additionally, by focus on only the area identified by the court, the Democratic proposal leaves 46 Senate districts exactly the same and only modifies the boundaries of 10 Senate districts. That is, the 10 Senate districts identified by the court. By comparison, the Republican proposal modifies the boundaries of 15 Senate districts. Of the 15, only 8 of them were identified by the court as diluting black voting power. Further, the Democratic proposal does not pair any incumbents. It also does not unnecessarily change district numbers where district boundaries have not dramatically changed. Keeping the same district numbers as the 2021 maps will decrease voter confusion in the 2024 election cycle and increase voter confidence. Additionally, there will be little to no voter confusion in the 46 Senate districts that have not been changed. The first district that the court specified, District 10. This existing majority black district maintains its DeKalb and Henry core and adds a portion of Rockdale County that is becoming increasingly diverse and was previously in the 17th district. The district has a black VAP of 63%. District 16. This district becomes a new majority black district to comply with Section 2 of the VRA and the judge's order. It retains its Northwest Fayette core and adds sections of Northeast Fayette County that were previously packed into District 34. The district also includes portions of South Fulton County from the packed District 35 and Northeast Coweta County from the cracked District 28. along the I-85 corridor, including all or parts of the cities of Union City, Fairburn, and Noonan. Compared to the old District 16, it removes non-Section 2 areas of Fayette, Spalding, Pike, and Lamar counties. The district has a black VAP of 52%. District 17, from 2011 to 2021, District 17 existed in parts of Henry, Newton, and Rockdale counties. Most of the district's population was in Henry County. During that period, Henry County's white population decreased by 19%, and the black population increased by 60%. The prior district had become a 42% black opportunity district that was overpopulated. It was possible to create a new majority black just from within the core of the existing district. Instead, during the 2021 redistricting, the state cracked black voters in the 17th district, moving 19,000 black residents in Henry County into the 25th, where they did not have an opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. Rural counties that are not communities of interest with Henry, including parts of Walton County and all of Morgan County, were gerrymandered in to achieve population. Our plan moves voters in southwest Henry County out of the packed 10th district into our own district. This proposed 17 districts includes voters in the cities of Stockbridge, McDonough, Hampton, and Locust Grove along the I-75 corridor. It also adds a sizable black population in Butts County, further along the I-75 corridor. The newly created district is compact and has a 51% black VAP. District 25. From 2011 to 2021, District 25 was a mostly rural district southwest of the Atlanta suburbs. It was not a black majority district or opportunity district. In the 2021 redistricting, the state gerrymandered the 25th district to take black voters from the old proposed 17th district to prevent those voters from having the opportunity to elect the candidate of their choice. We cured this district in a configuration more like its original configuration and respecting communities of interest. All of Baldwin, Jones, Putnam, Jasper, and Morgan counties are contained in the district. Mostly rural portions of Walton and Newton County are also included to achieve population. A small portion of Macon, Bibb County is included in the existing district. While we would not include this portion if we were redrawing all districts, this part was left unchanged due to the judge's mandate to only focus on affected areas. The black VAP is 27%. District 28. The existing 28 district is 25% black and not an influence district. Substantial black population in central Coweta County, South Fulton County, and southwest Douglas County were cracked and placed into this district. Those black populations were removed into new District 16 and 35 to satisfy the court's order. This district picks up portions of Fayette and Spalding County and all of Pike and Lamar counties. That came from the old District 16, but are not Section 2 areas. This district loses Heard County and part of northwest Coweta County to District 30 because of population shifts. These parts are not Section 2 areas. The final District 28 includes most of the southern part of Coweta and Fayette counties. most of Spalding County except for the parts of the city of Griffin and all of Pike and Lamar counties. The black VAP of the district is 14%. District 30, the existing District 30 is not a Section 2 district and included all of Carroll County and Heard County and portions of Douglas and Paulding County. Black voters in northwest Douglas County and southeast Paulding County had their ability to select the candidate of their choice impacted by being cracked into existing District 30. These voters were moved out of District 30 into new District 35. Due to population loss from the Section 2 mandated changes, District 30 added all of Heard County and the northwest portion of Coweta County. The black VAP is 16%. District 34, our plan maintains the Clayton County core of this district. Most of Clayton County west of Tara Boulevard is included in this district, including portions of the south part of the county that were previously in District 44. We removed the portion of Fayette County from this district. That area was packed in and forms the core of the new VRA compliant District 16. To achieve population and help as many areas as possible in the affected area of the map comply with the judge's order. We also added portions of the city of Griffin and northwest Paulding County that are plurality black. This district remains a majority black district. District 35. Existing District 35 includes parts of South Fulton County and the eastern half of Douglas County. Previously, black voters were packed into this district. Neighboring areas with substantial black populations like western Douglas County, South Paulding County, northeastern Coweta County, and northwestern Fayette County were cracked into non-VRA compliant districts. Heavily black portions of South Fulton along the I-85 corridor were removed to create part of the new core of District 16. All of Douglas County was consolidated into this district. They were previously in either 28 or 30. Portions of South Paulding County that were previously in District 30 were added to achieve population deviation. The new district has a black VAP of 55%. District 43. The existing District 43 contained a portion of southeast DeKalb, all of Rockdale, and a portion of Newton County. A substantial black population in Newton County was cracked and placed into existing District 17 to prevent these voters from being able to pick the candidate of their choice. We placed the majority of these Newton County voters back into District 43, where they can exercise their voting rights. The district retains half of Rockdale County and east of I-20 due to population deviation and moves elsewhere to comply with the court's order. The other half of Rockdale County was moved into District 10, another Section 2 district. The new district is 61% black VAP. District 44. This district retains its existing core in DeKalb County. The prior configuration split Clayton County more centrally. This district included most of the east side of the county. Clayton is now split more along Tara Boulevard, and this district has most of the county that is east of Tara Boulevard, including the cities of Forest Park and Morrow. The district is more compact. It no longer goes all the way to the bottom of Clayton County's southern panhandle area. The new district is 67% black vote. As you all can see, the Democratic proposal creates 2 majority black districts, only in the vote dilution area identified by the federal court. Under our proposal, more than 100,000 black voting age residents in the vote dilution districts would now be able to exercise their constitutional right to vote in the new District 16 and 17, or by being added to existing districts like 10, 34, 35, 43, and 44. In the Republican proposal, a net of fewer than 4,000 black voting age residents in the vote dilution districts would achieve new status because the new districts were created primarily from areas that were largely already in majority black districts, or in the case of substantial population in Douglas and Newton County, were previously in majority black districts, but were cracked into non-Voting Rights Act compliant districts. The Republican proposal achieves additional majority black districts by packing and reconfiguring non-affected areas elsewhere on the map. If the Republican plan passes, the federal court's finding of disenfranchisement centered on the areas around Henry County and Griffin and Spalding County, Northwest Fayette County, Central Newton County, and Western Douglas County would still apply. That would mean that tens of thousands of black voters in those areas will still not have equal opportunity to elect the candidates of their choice. As we did in 2021, Senate Democrats again pleaded with Republicans to pass a map that complies with the Voting Rights Act and does not discriminate against black voters. We believe that passing the Republican map would only lead to more litigation and waste taxpayer dollars. Georgians deserve fair maps, and it is our duty to create fair maps that reflect the diversity of Georgia and comply with federal law. Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation, and if you will give us the opportunity to ask the questions, we will comply with that.
Thank you. So we'll open up now if anyone has any questions for the majority leader about the map she's presented.
The whip and the chair are here to help supply answers to questions as well.
Sure.
Although the whip is a member of this committee.
Good. Madam Leader, I was trying to follow along as you were reading that testimony, but I didn't, not sure I have it accurate. What are the 2 additional black majority districts in South Atlanta that were required by the judge's order? What are the 2 districts?
District 16 and 17.
16 and 17?
That's correct.
If you don't mind me, if you'll look at the blown up, we were supposed to have a map that you have it, Senator Kauser, in your packet. You'll have to flip to the non-statewide plan, to the Metro Atlanta plan to be able to see it at all.
So your new districts are numbered 16 and 17 in this packet that we've been presented?
No.
Okay. How did you, in creating this map, take into account the different experts that had testified in that court proceeding? My understanding is the Democratic Party and the plaintiffs in that case had a fellow named Bill Cooper and one named Bill Esselstein or something like that. They had 2 competing kind of proposals, how did you account for their different approaches that the plaintiff's own experts had in that case challenging the original map?
So we are not parties to that litigation, and I'm not sure that any of us know and have gone to that minute detail about exactly what maps the plaintiffs submitted. We are offering this proposal.
Well, it's important because that's what the judge based his decision on, and the chairman's plan very closely followed the plaintiff's expert Blake Esselstein's proposal.
Actually, Senator, ours much more closely mirrors the plans submitted by the plaintiffs because.
I thought you weren't familiar with that a second ago.
Well, I'm vaguely familiar. I'm not familiar with the exact differences between Cooper and Esselstein. But I am familiar with the fact that the plaintiffs' maps create 2 new majority-minority districts in the area directly mandated by the court, which is the affected area of the 10 districts. And this proposal does the same, and it makes no changes outside of the court's affected area. Yesterday's map makes dramatic changes outside of it and barely any changes providing black voters any new opportunities in the affected area. So in that sense, our map is far more similar to the various plaintiffs' maps.
Should I question you or the sponsor of this bill?
I'm serving as her attorney for this particular hearing.
All right, well then I will.
And I'm the second signer. I'm the second signer.
May I continue? I will follow up, and whichever one of you has wants to give me the legal answer or the political answer, I'll take either one. Did you use political data when drawing this map?
No, I mean, there's always a byproduct in looking at maps with data, but no, I mean, the maps are drawn to represent the court's mandate within the affected area. And the mandate is 2 new majority-minority districts within the affected area.
So it's just pure happenstance that the Democratic map happens to create 2 new Democratic districts, giving a partisan advantage, whereas the chairman's map left it exactly the same as the current political split in the state Senate. Didn't look at that at all. It just by luck of the draw, you ended up making a partisan advantage map.
Have you, Senator, run the partisan data on this map?
I haven't, but it's something contained in the
Is it?
deal.
It is? I don't think
Well,
so.
I'm looking at
I'm not aware that
at a
would be in
handout that is in all the committee members' folders.
That's not provided by us.
And it says we're judging this on 2 things. Number 1, do we add majority black districts? Both plans do comply with the judge's order. Number 2, it judges on does it affect partisan balance. The Democratic plan does affect the partisan balance by adding 2 Democratic seats, and the chairman's plan did not. Now, I know that you may not have prepared this, but this allegedly independent group that claims to be nonpartisan shows that your map gives a partisan advantage, as well as the 2 new black seats.
Well, what I think is interesting is that, I'm looking at this, and as the leader said, we did not provide it. But what I'm noticing is that the group that provided it is giving very high marks to this proposal under both VRA grounds and under traditional redistricting principles grounds. That's what I'm noticing in their handout.
Yeah, well, I wasn't a math major, but the one that says the Senate district plan here that the chairman has presented gives 33 Republican districts in the new plan, and there was 33 in the old plan. And it gives 23 Democratic districts in the new plan and 23 in the old, whereas the Democratic proposal creates 31 Republican districts and 25 Democratic districts. But somehow the math is not taken into account in deciding whether it affects partisan
No, I got it.
changes. So which of the districts changed to draw the new majority black? Just 16 and 17?
No. Each of the 10 districts found to be illegal by the court, each of them changed, and the leader pretty exhaustively walked through it. Happy to provide all of you with that printout, because obviously it's very lengthy. And so maybe, it's hard to follow along the whole thing when you're speaking. So certainly happy to give you the specifics of exactly what was changed. But every one of the 10 districts, which are the affected area, as decreed by the district court, has been changed to bring them into compliance with the Voting Rights Act.
So we don't have a list of those?
We do.
Handy, we do.
Well, certainly. I mean, we all know what they are. They're
Well, that's what I'm
districts.
asking. I'm not
Okay.
as savvy in reading this, a bill that's, 85 pages thick to know which of the 10 districts we're talking about.
All right, so if you're looking at your map, Senator Kauser, your blow-up of the affected area, right, which is the South Metro Atlanta area.
Okay?
Specifically, the court identified Senate districts 10, 16, 17, 25, 28, 30, 34, 35, 43, and 44 as the area in which our currently enacted districts violate the Voting Rights Act.
And are those the 10 districts that changed under the Democratic plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And no other districts changed.
All right.
So under the proposal yesterday,
And we don't have a copy of it. That we don't have.
80% of the new black voters come from areas outside the affected area, which is irrelevant to the court's analysis. Whereas in ours, 100% come from the affected area and 0 other Georgians are impacted. And importantly, here's where you can really get into the nitty-gritty. There are 2 things that are really important. Number one, under federal court precedent, under the precedent called Gingles, whether or not there's a clear constitutional analysis on whether or not you need to create a majority-minority district. And there are factors that are followed. Where one can be created, it needs to be created. And that's why he limited it to the affected area, because you don't just create them anywhere. You're required to create them in certain areas where the population is sizable enough, there's racially polarized voting, and a few other things like that.
Are you disappointed then that your district now is a majority black district?
Certainly not.
Okay.
I mean, I do, I'll say this.
You're just mad because it wasn't one of the 10 that the judge identified?
It was not one of the, right. So essentially you cannot, where a majority-minority district has to be created, you can't satisfy it by moving around people in other areas where no voter discrimination was found. You have not cured where the court said voter discrimination is found and the process is not equally open to black voters. That was simply not found in the area of the map outside the 10 districts. In our map,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, in our map, for example, 100,000 new black voters will be in the position to equally and fully participate in the political process, which is exactly what the court found is not happening, right, under our enacted districts. 100,000. Basically, the only way the proposal from yesterday tries to create anything is by just shuffling people around. So people that are
That is, in other words, redistricting.
Yeah, but
That's what
but,
we do.
you didn't let me finish. So when you just simply move people around, all you're doing is trying to obfuscate the fact that that very, very, very few new voters have been provided with any new opportunity. There's 3,000. 3,000. And you know how big our districts are. So it simply just doesn't comply.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Set
Madam Leader, earlier you referred to packed and cracked in your testimony. What is your definition of packed?
When you pack, when you take voters of the same race and put them all in one place,
Okay.
that's packing. I'm sure you know that, Senator.
Okay. And do you agree, at least, that the chair's proposal does create 2 new majority black districts in the area that the judge identified?
Mike is not. No.
No.
No, it does not.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah. What number are you? 12?
12.
Thank you. On part of this analysis that took place where the court actually did mention various districts that were in violation of VRA, and two of those, I think, were 16 and 34. But I don't think they had any changes to them at all. And yet the court has said, because he actually listed various districts that had those issues, those legal issues. So, Madam Leader, can you tell us possibly why you, in the previous map that we had, we see two particular districts that had no changes at all, even though they're specifically mentioned within the court's order as far as having issues with the Voting Rights Act?
I'm sorry. What was that a question to me?
No, it's to Madam Leader.
Okay.
Yeah. On District 16 and 34, the fact that they had no changes at all, even though they were mentioned specifically within the VRA or within the judge's order of having issues with the VRA. Any reason why you think that may have actually taken place in the previous map that we saw yesterday?
Yeah. It's a mystery to us.
It would take place.
It does, however, create a legal problem. You're highlighting another legal problem in yesterday's map.
Anyone else? What number are you for?
4, yes, Madam Chair. Am I recognized?
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
sorry.
sorry.
For whoever wants to answer this, this co-sponsored the bill. We did receive this chart, and I guess want to follow up with Chairman Hatchett's question. We heard numerous public comment yesterday that this does comply with the mandate, and that the Chairman Eccles' map complies with the mandate. This identifies that it complies with the mandate. Your position, just to clarify, is that this does not comply
Absolutely.
with the mandate?
Which also we heard from the plaintiff's attorney yesterday. It's not on, sorry. Yeah, oh, apologies. Do I need to repeat that, or are we good?
Yeah, so the answer was yes.
Okay. So, no, yeah.
The remedy section of the complaint states specifically there should be 2 majority black districts created.
It does, in the affected area.
And do you believe that Chairman Eccles' map did that?
This particular thing you're referencing, I think it was stated very clearly that they were simply doing a numerical analysis and not a legal analysis in terms of compliance, as in, are there 2 new majority black districts? However, that is not at all the inquiry that is required to be conducted, a simple mathematical equation when you're talking about the Voting Rights Act. And that is why Judge Jones said, create 2 majority black districts in the affected area. The affected area are the 10 districts that we previously stated. And as it stands, yesterday's proposal provides a very paltry 3,000 black voters, new black voters, the opportunity to participate equally in the political process.
It's actually it's actually 9 districts that are mentioned in the order, and it's districts/areas. And then he does recognize districts 10, 16, 17, 25, 28, 30, 34, 35, and 44 as the districts/areas. I think the key in that section of the order, which if you have it, I can tell you what page it's on.
It's down in my office.
It's on page 513.
I can get it from my office, but if you want me to look at it, I'll need a minute.
The key there is that it mentions districts/areas. I think you're limiting that to districts and not recognizing that the order actually states that the new black districts should come from these 9 districts/areas. I think that's potentially a point of contention between the 2 of you.
Can I respond to that?
Sure,
real quick?
absolutely, yeah.
So the areas would be South Metro, which are Henry, Spalding, Northwest Fayette, Central Newnan, and Western Douglas.
Yeah, the areas that were. I'm not sure how much of those are captured in the districts that I just read, but those
All
are
of
the
them.
districts listed.
Correct. So they're kind of one and the same thing. Would you
Right.
agree?
So in the chairman's map, the 2 new black majority districts are derived from 7 of the 9 identified areas. So I think that perhaps her contention, I'm going to ask her this later, would be that the 7 of the 9 does capture the spirit of what was stated. I do want to focus.
Can I respond to that?
Please, yeah.
So the problem is that when the disenfranchised voters are down in Henry County, for example, you can't take voters who aren't disenfranchised in DeKalb and Fulton counties and use them to try to say now because they weren't disenfranchised. You still have to enfranchise and allow the voters in the vote dilution area to participate fully. And those are the ones down south. You can't take these districts north outside of the area where the court found the illegal maps and say, oh yeah, everything's great. I mean, that's just not, it doesn't satisfy the VRA or the court's order.
As it relates to District 16, is that one of your new majority black districts in your map?
Yes, if you look at, that's correct, yeah.
Can we talk about that for a second? What,
Certainly.
in your mind, what are the communities of interest that connect, I guess, South Fulton, Coweta, and Fayette? I'm sorry, South Fulton, Fayette, and Noonan.
So, before I go back and reread what Leader Butler already read about those districts, which I can certainly do.
That'd be great.
Okay, you want me to reread that?
I don't need you to
Sure.
reread it. Maybe if you could just highlight in your own words what those communities of interest are.
All right. District 16. This district becomes a new majority black district to comply with Section 2 of the VRA and the judge's order. It retains its Northwest Fayette core and adds sections of Northeast Fayette County that were previously packed into District 34. The district also includes portions of South Fulton County from the packed District 35 and Northeast Coweta County from the cracked District 28 along the I-85 corridor, including all or parts of the cities of Union City, Fairburn, and Noonan. Compared to the old District 16, it removes non-Section 2 areas of Fayette, Spalding, Pike, and Lamar counties.
Great.
17.
That's helpful for, let's just stay on 16 if that's okay.
Sure. I will note for 17, it is worth repeating this because it really is critical to the court's analysis, and it's the area where there's the largest. So, again, piggybacking on what I was saying earlier, you're required to create a majority-minority district when certain factors are met. The single largest, there's large growth in the minority population in Henry County, right? If you look at a map and you turn on for ethnic and racial background, you will see there's a glaring huge block of individuals right there. And so it is worth repeating that it says the prior district, right before we enacted, these ones, had become a 42% black opportunity district and was overpopulated. It was possible to create a new majority black district just from within the core of that district. And that is because between 2011 and 2021, Henry County's white population decreased by 19% and the black population increased by 60%. And that's where, we were saying when we enacted these maps in the floor debate, we said, look, y'all, Georgia's population grew by almost 1 million, not quite. The vast majority of that growth, in fact, all of that growth was among voters of color. And the black population increased by 500,000 to 600,000 people. And a lot of them are in this area. And they need to be able to have a voice in the process.
Okay. So coming back to 16, I think that you referenced earlier when Senator Kauser asked a couple questions that you guys didn't use any political data and that you were even unaware of what the partisan shifts may be with this new map. You just referenced the turning on of maps and looking at racial data. Did you solely use racial data in drawing the 16th?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no other data used to draw the 16th?
Well, no, you mean you got to look at the block files and you got to look at the, all of the things that go into making a map.
So other than establishing the balanced districts within the threshold?
Yeah, I think you also.
Race was the sole.
You got to talk about, what we've done is follow the court's order and the Voting Rights Act, which is to create 2 new majority-minority districts within the identified vote dilution area, right? That's all we did.
Okay, so
that's what we did. And to this extent that demography is destiny, I would push back on that a little bit. I don't know what the partisan data is. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, I just want to clarify, because I think I heard you say yes to the answer that it was solely racial, it was solely race that you relied on to draw the 16th.
No, look, you have to use all kinds of different factors, and race can be one of them.
Can you
And it
outline-
is, because we were ordered to draw 2 new majority-minority districts.
As it relates to 16, then, what were the other factors that were used?
Let's go back to it again. So it became one of our new majority black districts to comply with Section 2 in the judge's order. But it followed other traditional redistricting principles, and this map follows other traditional redistricting principles much better than yesterday's map in the sense of communities of interest, core of prior districts, and the like. So this district retains its Northwest Fayette core and adds sections of Northeast Fayette County that were previously packed into District 34.
I recognize the geographical lines of the district. That's not my question.
Okay.
My question is specifically what other data was used to draw this district other than race? When I first asked you, did you solely use race? You said yes. Now you're saying that other factors were used, and I'm wondering what those factors,
right.
what other data was used?
You always use, I mean, you've got to look at the precinct lines, you've got to look at population, you've got to look at, I got that, yeah. You got to look at, you're interrupting my train of thought. Yeah, I mean, you've got to look at the population. You've got to look at, important geographic boundaries such as county lines, city lines, et cetera.
Okay, my last question on 16. I see Coweta now is split. It was not split previously on the map. Was this split done primarily to add black voters to the 16th?
So you follow the communities of interest, the core of the prior districts, compactness, all of that has been followed.
Okay, thank you, Madam
Right?
Chair. Thank you.
Yeah.
To follow up on something you said earlier about complying with the judge's order, and I believe y'all said the judge said these districts are illegally drawn, and your position was you needed to change each one of those districts based on the judge's order. Is that right?
The judge found that, that in the 10 district area, that those 10 districts were drawn illegally.
And that y'all needed to, in response to the judge's orders, your understanding is that you needed to redraw each one of those.
That there should be two new majority minority districts within the 10 district area.
But I guess the question that I'm asking is, you were saying those are illegal districts, those are individual legal districts, and that y'all needed to redraw each one of those districts based on the judge's order.
Well, once you follow all the, redistricting principles and create the 2 new majority minority districts, you are first of all, you don't want to leave illegal districts,
Right.
ones that have been packed and cracked. So once you account for all of that, you've changed each one of those 10.
What's your definition of packed and cracked?
Packed is when you try to put a very significant numbers of certain communities in a small number of districts.
And your interpretation of the judge's orders was that all of those districts you listed were illegally drawn, and each one of those districts individually needed to be redrawn.
Well, I believe I just answered that one, but
Well, I haven't gotten you to answer that specifically, but the question is it your position and the position in considering how this map was drawn, that the judge said each one of these districts needs to be redrawn?
he said these 10 districts are a problem, and that's the affected area.
But
So I can't read his mind exactly, right? So I don't know, and I don't have the opinion in front of me. I forgot to bring it from office.
Okay.
So I probably need to reference it, but my memory would be that he said, these 10 districts are illegal. That's the affected area. 2 new majority minority districts need to be drawn in the affected area.
In the affected area. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Senator Anavatarte.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I had a just quick couple questions, and I direct this at the minority leader or someone in the Democratic caucus. Can someone articulate, based on data or, I guess, methodology, why Rockdale County was split in half?
Rockdale. So we're talking about 43 and
10.
10. The 10. This existing majority black district maintains its DeKalb and Henry County core, which again is one of the traditional redistricting principles, and adds a portion of Rockdale County that is becoming increasingly diverse and had previously been cracked into the 17th district.
So, and I know two of my colleagues to my left basically border Rockdale County. In terms of the county, the makeup, just, demographics, everything in Rockdale County, I mean, does it make sense to split Rockdale County in half?
Well, where you need to draw the majority-minority districts, it depends on where the population is sizable enough and shares commonalities with other communities and can be outvoted, for lack of a better term right now, by the majority, right? So if you start to look at the demographics, you see where those communities are, and that's where you're required to create majority-minority districts.
So based on that, and kind of going back, I guess, to the methodology that you cited earlier about taking from the north and trying to satisfy the south, what, in terms of community interests, similarities exist between South DeKalb, and I'm saying this as somebody who used to be a resident of DeKalb County, to someone who literally lives on the Henry County, Butts County line?
Right, so I think the leader stated in her presentation that there's a significant black population there in that part of Butts.
So I understand that, but what else in the community in South DeKalb and Southeast Henry would be similar? So it was drawn strictly based on race?
No, as I already went over, no district is drawn strictly based on race.
Well, that's what you just said.
No, I didn't.
Based on South DeKalb and...
It is a factor, and as you are certainly aware, it's an important factor, and in fact, it's the
Right.
factor that has forced us into a special redistricting session, so it's certainly relevant.
Could you articulate what are the other factors in South DeKalb and Southeast Henry County that were used to draw that part of District 10?
Well, we're required, there it is, thank you, required to create a new majority-minority district in that area where the Gingles factors have been proven in court.
So you don't have specific data you could share with the committee at this point?
Well, I can reread you the other reasons why.
I've already heard everything you
Okay.
read,
Well, there you
probably
go.
from your attorneys, so, all right, thank you. No, that's it.
What are you, 9? 11. He had asked first, and then after him,
No, I'm good.
That's fine. That's,
No,
you
no,
can go ahead.
no.
Call on
I'm
him
good.
first. That's
okay, we'll hear.
President,
You're up.
thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
One of the things that occurred to me, and I just want to put this out for consideration, is that I believe yesterday the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity group, a primary player in the lawsuit in the first place, sent a letter to the committee stating that it is their belief that this, as drawn by the Republican maps, it violates the Voting Rights Act. Now, this is a plaintiff comment, as stated by to the committee, and I believe that's going to carry some weight. And in that light, as it relates to violating the Voting Rights Act and causing confusion, don't you think that this is going to be more money, more confusion, and it's going to cause people to hesitate about going to the polls? It's going to cause a lot of things that perhaps shouldn't occur when we're looking forward to the 2024 election. I'm just putting it out there for your consideration and to the chair and to comments from my leader and chair as well. I just believe that's the big elephant in the room. They're saying that this violates the Voting Rights Act, clearly, and it does not comply with the judge's order, punctuation period. And if that's not the case, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but I believe that is great food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kennedy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Leader, my question is, in drawing the maps that you all came to ultimately be what is presented to us today, that's a very dynamic process. I know about that from 2 years ago, and you know about it from many years of working with maps.
Not many years of working with maps.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry if I was giving you more credit in that area than I should have then. I just know you've been here a long time, have served for a very long time.
Not an expert at drawing maps.
Okay. I do recall last time, 2 years ago, you were very active in expressing your opinions and the opinions of your party about the maps that we offered. And I think we can agree on that.
That's my role.
Yes, ma'am. My question is, in all the work that went into formulating ultimately what we see as the bill that you've provided and that you're presenting today, did you make any efforts to draw a map that you thought complied with the court's order but maintain the same partisan numbers that we have now of 33-23?
We don't have partisan data, Mr. Pro Tem.
Okay, so now you're telling, all right, Madam Leader, do you have anything to say? I'm happy to hear from you, but that, I don't know why you said that, Senator. That doesn't address my question. My question is, were efforts made to draw a map that you thought complied with the court's order, but maintained the same Republican, Democratic numbers that we have currently?
Not if you've got to produce 2 new majority black districts, we can't maintain the same numbers.
Well, you can, if whoever runs can win.
It's 2 more to add to what numbers we have.
Of majority minority.
So your position is and was in the process that in complying with the court's order, you were required to come up with a map that added 2 Democrats. Is that what you're telling us?
No, certainly not.
2
Okay.
majority black districts.
Okay. So I guess back to Senator Kauser's question earlier that really wasn't answered. It just happened to be that the map y'all came up with changed the partisan numbers, correct?
No.
It's a work of art. It's not a happenstance, as he said.
Let me ask it this way. Senator Parent, you're saying no as if you're seemingly unaware of the RD numbers of the maps of the map being presented. Can either of you tell me or tell this committee what you understand the Republican-Democratic split to be under this map that's proposed?
I don't have it in front of me. I don't think we have it in front of us. I mean, if you're saying that a Republican cannot win a majority minority district?
That's
Okay.
not what I'm saying. It's very simple and very straightforward.
Oh, you mean what are the actual voter analyses in terms of like which election are you talking about? Are you talking about governor last time? Are you talking about, okay, what are you talking about?
We don't have to get into that level. It's a very simple and straightforward question of what is your opinion, Madam Leader or Senator Parent, of what is the Republican-Democratic split of the map that you're presenting? What is the anticipated district count for Republicans versus Democrats?
So what we're dealing with is a court order that said create 2 majority minority districts in the affected area.
I understand.
And that's what we did, and that's all we did. And the court didn't look, the court didn't look at partisanship. That isn't part of this. As you're well aware, the Supreme Court said partisan gerrymandering was fine and racial gerrymandering isn't.
I understand.
And so that's what this order is based on, and that's this map that you have.
Senator, thank you for that. Can you answer my question, though? Because you haven't. You completely. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. You've completely dodged my question, which is, do you have an opinion of whether or not, or what the numbers are in the map that you're presenting?
As I've stated several times, we do not have that. I don't have that in front of me, and I'm asking, I guess what I'm asking you is what's the relevance to the court's order?
Well, because, Senator Perry, you'll certainly remember that 2 years ago, when we did our redistricting process, you, other members of your party, were very critical of the maps that we presented and said that they were partisan. They were too partisan. They were partisan gerrymandered. They were gerrymandered in a way to maintain certain majorities. So that was clearly a part of the narrative. And so the question now, as Senator Cowsert, Chairman Cowsert pointed out, it just seems to be that the map y'all have presented gives your party a 2-seat advantage over the current maps. Well, the independent group that has provided the flyers that are in here does. I think an independent analysis of the RD political number would suggest those numbers are right, perhaps. I haven't studied them either. I'm relying on what's in the file. And so the very thing that y'all have criticized us through the process of making it and using partisan objectives seems to be exactly where we've landed with the maps that you're presenting. Wait, let me finish, please.
Sure.
Seems to be exactly where we've landed with the maps that you have presented. But you don't want to talk about partisanship. But clearly it just happens to be that's where you luckily landed. But it is striking that we come to this committee and we have very knowledgeable and experienced and seasoned senators that want to suggest you don't even know what the RD numbers are of the map that's presented.
So if there was criticism that there was a partisan gerrymander, which there was, and there was from fair districts and a whole bunch of groups, and they think that this map in front of us is fairer to the voters of Georgia because it undoes a partial and racial gerrymander, that means that we're not gerrymandering.
Well, you just conflated two issues. You jumped from political gerrymandering to talking about racial gerrymandering. And my question is just about the political aspects.
So if we've undone a partisan gerrymander, then we've not gerrymandered. And let me just read to you, Mr. Pro Tem, the Princeton Gerrymandering Project is out with their analysis of yesterday's map, and they said it is a blooming carnation of gerrymandering with oblong, petal-shaped districts radiating out from Atlanta. So if ours isn't drawn like that, it's because it's not a gerrymander.
Okay.
Would you not acknowledge that Georgia is a purple state? And you think we should maintain a 23-33?
Yeah.
Is that your position?
My question to you is whether or not you will acknowledge that you have drawn this map in a way that provides a political advantage. And if you can't acknowledge that, if you don't recognize the numbers that seemingly the independent folks acknowledge, it's kind of hard to have a conversation and go forward.
Okay, well, we can have that conversation. It may. And it's because it undoes the partisan gerrymander partially that y'all have put in place starting in 2010.
Which is what you just said a few moments ago that the court recognized, in fact, can happen, right? That was your legal opinion that you were providing us.
The Supreme Court, which is why we're here on the Voting Rights Act, is a different inquiry than partisan gerrymandering.
So is the objective of the map that you provided one for partisan purposes or one for purely racial purposes?
We are here under the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, and that's the only thing that concerns us today.
Okay.
It's the only thing in front of Judge Jones, and Judge Jones said these 10 districts are illegal. Enacted maps violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act as to the following areas/districts. Enacted Senate districts 10, 16, 17, 25, 28, 30, 34, 35, 43, and 44. And he said, draw to majority-minority districts within the affected area, and that's what this map does in keeping with, aside from that, traditional redistricting principles, and certainly traditional redistricting principles as to the non-affected areas of the map, instead of ripping things apart and destroying communities of interest. And it makes no changes to 46 districts. Doesn't change them at all.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll move to the public comments from the people who signed up just a few moments ago. So first up is Cindy Battles, and then on deck is Michelle Sanchez. Yes, so yesterday we had a 5-minute time limit per speaker, so we'll acknowledge that same time limit today.
Thank you. I am pretty sure I can do that in 5 minutes. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Obviously, with the House and the Senate meeting at the same time yesterday, even as talented as I am, being in 2 places at one time is a little bit difficult. I do want to kind of talk a little bit about that process, about the fact that there's been such limited time for public comment. We talked about when the maps were released. I don't know what kind of attempts have been made to reach out to the public, but I would like to say that pursuant to Judge Jones's order, it feels like getting that public comment and making those efforts is important. As we've mentioned before, on October 26th, the legislature was instructed to redraw its maps and to comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Judge Jones will ultimately decide whether the legislature has complied with this order. But providing so little time for public comments and not reaching out to the communities most directly impacted by Judge Jones's orders continues the previous practices that contributed to the illegality, I can spell and speak, I promise, of the previous maps. These proposed maps continue to deny voters of color an equal opportunity to participate in the political process, specifically because of the dismantling of districts that elect the candidates of choice of voters of colors, such as what is proposed for Senate District 6, which is Senator Estevez's district, and what was previously Senate District 42, Senator Parent's district. The proposed map also does not appear to comply with Judge Jones's order because Judge Jones has held that black voters residing in 10 Senate districts in the southern Atlanta metro did not have an equal opportunity to elect candidates of choice in violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Thus, he ordered that the legislature draw 2 additional majority black Senate districts from that cluster of 10 districts. However, most of the black voters in the purportedly new majority black districts appear to have been moved from outside those 10 districts, and many of those voters already resided in majority black districts. Other districts that were racially gerrymandered under the originally enacted plan included Senate Districts 1, 2, 4, 17, and 56 remain racially gerrymandered in the proposed plan. In Chatham County, which is split 3 ways, SD2 remains packed, diluting the votes of voters of colors in SD1 and 4. The original SD17 is now essentially the new SD42 and remains unlawfully cracked. This district is among the districts that Judge Jones stated was in violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and remains virtually unchanged. Additionally, Senate District 56 remains unlawfully cracked. Just because some of the things that we've heard here today, I want to point out that the court order does not state that the legislature should only comply with the order and the Voting Rights Act if it maintains a partisan advantage. Partisan advantage does not supersede the Voting Rights Act or federal law. You cannot discriminate against black voters to retain partisan advantage. Even if the Supreme Court allows you to do so, sir, it is not okay. It is not okay, and we've had this conversation when we talked about the Democrats trying to do the same thing to retain power when Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act still gave Republicans the right to go before the Department of Justice and say, hey, this is a partisan gerrymander and it's not okay. I implore you to please, as you move forward, consider the voters, consider what the voters want, and draw maps that reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Michelle Sanchez, and on deck is Yolanda Pickstock.
Hello, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Michelle Sanchez, and I've been a community organizer in Georgia for 8 years, focusing on Latina and Black communities. Today, I speak on behalf of CASA and CASA in Action, representing our members in DeKalb, Fulton, Clayton, and Henry counties. We find it very concerning that despite Judge Jones's ruling that the current map violates the Voting Rights Act by diluting black voting power, the new maps fall short of creating new majority black districts. The judge identified 10 districts with vote dilution. While this map technically adds 2 majority black districts as ordered, it removes 2 districts with over 40% minorities and diminishes black voter power in other districts. This map fails to honor the spirit of the court order. Instead of providing 2 additional districts where black voters can elect their candidates, it protects every incumbent and denies black voters any additional representation. It's very unfortunate that the already struggling Georgia voters are having to spend their hard-earned tax dollars on this special session that would not have been necessary had Georgia Republicans done the right thing the first time the maps were drawn. You have a chance now to do the right thing, and in no better time considering so many people are questioning the power of their votes. By failing to follow the judge's order of enfranchising a block of black Georgians and instead opting for a numerical loophole, this body imperils itself to failing to comply with the ruling and fails the people of Georgia. Do the right thing here, people. It's not that hard.
Thank you. Next, we have Yolanda Pickstock, and then after Yolanda will be our final speaker, Janet Grant.
Good morning. I'm Yolanda Pickstock, Legislative Director for Georgia Stand Up. We commend those who have presented the maps discussed today. This map does comply with the judge's order by adding 2 additional black majority districts, Senate Districts 16 and 17, and it does not increase competitive districts. Georgia Stand Up, which is part of the Redistricting Alliance, believes elections should be determined by voters and not politicians who draw maps. We support independent redistricting commissions, which are more transparent and impartial. Independent redistricting commissions establish standards for those who can serve on commissions and criteria which must be followed when drawing district maps. As communities in Georgia, we would like the state to move towards more inclusive redistricting processes by creating independent districting commissions. Specifically, Fayette and Spalding areas were ignored by the maps presented yesterday. As coalition groups, we have worked to set the administrative record via local redistricting resolutions, which the County of Clayton has passed. We thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Janet Grant.
Good morning, Chair Eccles and members of the committee. My name is Janet Grant, and I'm co-chair of Fair Districts Georgia. Appreciate the opportunity to testify today. I was over in the House testifying while you were meeting yesterday, and pleased to be able to speak on the Democratic caucus map. As a reminder, Fair Districts Georgia is a nonpartisan grassroots citizen organization solely focused on advocating for fair redistricting and redistricting reform. We believe that the maps enacted during this session should comply with the court's order while excluding any unrelated, unnecessary changes for partisan gain, in keeping with our long-held priority of opposing mid-cycle redistricting by both parties. You do have in front of you, I've heard several of you have been looking at it, you have in front of you our scorecard for the Democratic House map, and you also have the scorecard that Ken referenced yesterday for Chair Eccles' map. On the Democratic House caucus map, our simple 2-part pass-fail test. In this case, we find that the map does meet the first criteria of the court order with 2 new black majority districts, and also meets the second test in that it clearly passes with no unnecessary changes purely to gain partisan advantage. You've now discussed 2 Senate maps. The difference that we're concerned about is the unnecessary disruption of voters in Chair Eccles' map, which impacts 15 districts, moving 14.4% of the statewide population, while the Democratic caucus map demonstrates that the court order can be met without broad disruption and potentially vote dilution of the chair's map. The Democratic caucus map is more surgically precise, impacting just 10 districts and 8.4% of the population. This puts the chair's map, should it pass, at risk, as we've heard from others, for being struck down by Judge Jones, in which case a special master would draw a map for the court, which may or may not result in less attention to incumbent protection. We strongly encourage you to revisit the map and take control and pass a map that fully reflects the growing diversity of Georgia and does not have the risk of being overturned by the court. Thanks for the opportunity to present today.
Thank you. So that concludes the public hearing portion of the meeting. Madam Leader, at this point, if I think the time's appropriate to entertain a motion if you would like to have motion on your map.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that, I gotta find the number, Senate Bill 1EX. Excuse me?
I'm sorry. You didn't vote on yesterday's now?
No, we haven't.
Where'd I get that?
So we got a motion and a second.
4EX.
Oh, that was a joke.
Moved. Well,
Okay, I apologize. Let's.
no, I'm not gonna make your motion. I'm looking at the wrong bill. Sorry.
Okay.
4EX.
4EX?
Yes.
So we have a motion.
I have a second, Madam Chair, but can we also speak to the motion?
Okay.
Discussion.
Yes.
I do second that motion. I did want to have a brief discussion on it, Madam Chair. Thank you. Obviously, we're supportive of this particular 4EX, but I do want to just talk about, because I could say this now or we're going to take up 1EX later, that we have taken up basically in 3 hours this committee, 8 days worth of testimony in the court. They had 20 witnesses live. They had 20 witnesses through deposition. The court made a 516-page findings, and we have basically taken that within this committee and condensed it down to 3 hours worth of testimony, if you want to call it that, to make a decision on these maps, which is a gigantic decision, quite frankly, because of course it does involve the Voting Rights Act. And I've heard comments about we're here because left-wing groups have brought us to this point. It's not true. What has brought us to this point is, unfortunately, the sad, sordid history of voting in Georgia and its decision from Georgia to continually suppress and oppress the rights of one particular group, African Americans. And that sad, sordid history cannot be refuted because even the defense's own experts stipulated to that particular history. So we know it exists, and that's what actually brings us here today. And of course, now the perfunctory remark will be what part of that sad history came through because Democrats were in control. Of course, that remark misses the point that life is not static. People can change, parties change. In fact, those who know history will realize that parties were initially frowned upon in the United States. Many thought that one of the reasons that George Washington ran for his third term was because of proliferation of political parties. So parties change. But you know what? That analysis about what party was in control and what party was not in control misses the point that the court points out, misses the point that the reason why we have the Voting Rights Act, the point is about not who's been in control. The point is about who's been discriminated against. And so no matter who was no matter was Democrats, Republicans, or any other group, the constant group that was discriminated against stopped, whether through written law or through informal law. And remember, defensive experts have stipulated to all of this that I'm saying, is African Americans. That's why we're here. It's not about whether you get 2 extra seats on the Democratic side or Republican side. In fact, the court even addressed that because if you remember, the defense's expert tried to make the point and said, we have racial polarized voting in Georgia because African Americans may vote more Democratic. The court said that's not the issue. The issue is who has been discriminated against. Why do you have racialized polarized voting? And can that particular group of hundreds of years of discrimination elect the persons of their choice? And the court, through that order, following a conservative Supreme Court, mind you, said no, that these lines that were drawn violated the Voting Rights Act, following and using the rationale used by a conservative Supreme Court. And understand that many of the metrics used in that case in Alabama, whether it was racial polarized voting or some of the factors that the conservative Supreme Court looked at, Georgia actually fails. We fall below that. Our racial polarized voting is actually more extensive than in Alabama. Many of the factors that they looked at in the Alabama case, Georgia falls below that. When we start talking about some of the factors to look at, whether it's poll closing, whether it's different types of laws that have been enacted, this court found that Georgia actually falls below Alabama. We're heading in the wrong direction, and we realize that these potential map that might be going forward is not going to pass constitutional muster, and we're going to have someone who knows nothing about a lot of us drawing these particular maps. It was asked about what metrics were used in determining about 4EX, and I would say that I find that a very interesting comment, because two redistricting cycles now, I still don't know the metrics that have been used by the majority party that will most likely be going forward. Don't know the socioeconomic factors that have been used, don't know the racial polarization that have been used, and these are things that were brought up before. And all of that came out in testimony in the court case. But what metrics were used? But no one says what metrics were used on the opposite side. What are the socioeconomic factors? Why is it that African Americans are below on so many numbers that the court took into consideration? What metrics were used as far as racially polarized voting? What metrics were used when you find that, as far as if you have in a general election, African American and white candidate, that the African American normally can't get over 10% of the white vote? What metrics were used? It isn't about one or two extra seats here. And there was a question about acknowledgement. Acknowledge about 2 extra seats. Until we get ready to acknowledge the history and present history of voting in this state and the design to stop one group, doesn't matter by who, I don't care about the party, but one group, African Americans, from exercising the right to vote, we will continue to go through these ridiculous process over and over and over. That's the acknowledgement we need to be making. It's who has been discriminated against. Let's acknowledge that, and then find out how to go forward to make sure that group has the opportunity to elect the candidates of their choice. But I do support SB 4EX, and I do second that motion. Thank you.
What number are you? 2? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment. I represent District 33. Basically, all y'all know me here. I'm not a black and white guy, but I have to look at the data when it comes to District 33. The black voting age before we started this process was over 40%. Now it's down to 32%. When you get below 37%, a group of voters are not effective at electing their candidate or getting their politics formulated in a positive manner. Once you go, and that's quite a drop from 40% to 32%. That's a significant drop. And you have to wonder, since that District 33 is a minority opportunity district, why is that happening? And how can I explain that to the people in my district? You know, what does it mean? It means I might not get reelected. That's one of the things it means. It means in the morning when it comes to roll call, I won't be able to call out the senator from the 31st name or call out to y'all. Senator from the 46th may not be around. I won't be around so you can laugh at my corny jokes. Senator from the 51st, we've worked hard traveling around the state trying to formulate development authorities and take on some tough issues. But basically, what does it mean? That the people in my district will probably be disenfranchised. But I just want to make that comment, and I support the Democratic bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion about SB 4EX. That's your bill. Okay, so we have had a motion, we have had a second, we've had discussion, so I think it is time to vote. Let me read off. LC 472579 is the LC number that you, for your bill, is that correct? Okay, so the motion is for do pass for Senate Bill 4EX of the LC number that I just read. All of those in favor, raise your hand. Did you get those? Thank you. And all of those opposed, raise your hand. Thank you. So the motion fails. Leader Gooch.
At the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
I think it is the appropriate time.
I make a motion we do pass Senate Bill 1EX, LC number 472584.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to make a couple of comments.
What's your number?
Number 8. I've listened to the debate and the impassioned comments of many members of this committee, and I can't overstate my affection and respect for the Dean of the Senate, for the Minority Whip, the Minority Leader, and I can't put myself in your shoes. The whip just made a great argument about historical discrimination, voter suppression. There were times in our state's history where the Democratic Party would not allow African Americans to vote in their primaries. That has obviously changed for the better. There was a reputed history in the South of discrimination against black voters, which is why we have the Voting Rights Act in Section 2, which brings us here today. And I think we're selling ourselves short not to acknowledge and recognize the progress that we have made as a state in working together and stopping the past practices of discrimination. And now we come here today, and the echoes of these arguments resonate still in this room, and our behavior has changed, and it's modified. And we are following the law. And I voted for the 2021 plan believing and having been advised by legal counsel that it was non-discriminatory. Most of the opposition to it was partisan opposition. And like they say, you can't take politics out of politics. That's understandable. We all have thick skin, and we can take that. Judge Jones, who is a personal friend of mine, sees this otherwise, and he believes that to comply with Section 2, we can create 2 additional African American majority districts. If he thought we could create 3, 4, 5, 6 more, he would have put that in the order. But he said, based essentially on the demographics of Georgia, where you have a 31% African American population, we ought to be able to create 2 more. And he showed us the areas with high African American concentration of population in the South Metro Atlanta area where we can do it. Well, the chairman has done it. She has created the maximum amount of majority minority districts that Judge Jones believes is possible in the areas where he thinks is possible. So we are doing our very best to comply. The only difference between these 2 plans, they're both creating those districts in the area required or suggested by the judge, is that the Democratic plan has partisan advantages where they add 2 Democratic seats, and the chairman's plan does not. So let's stop the debate about the racial components because both plans comply with what the judge requested, and it's the maximum amount of African American participation. Any suggestions of voter suppression are simply inaccurate. The voting data shows we had the highest African American turnout ever in the history of this state after these maps were passed. And we had the highest voter turnout. Nobody's votes are being suppressed. Some people aren't electing the candidates they want. A lot of Republicans weren't happy that we have two Republican United States senators, but we do. And we all work together and live together. And there's always the next election where you can go advocate and fight. But there has been no proof of any voters not being allowed to vote or their votes not being counted. The issue here was, can African American voters elect the candidate of their choice? And because of our racially polarized voting, that leaks into racial majorities and minorities in different districts. What I hope for as a Republican is the day that as a Republican Party we can persuade African American voters that we are their candidate of choice, regardless of our race. And it's more of a political discussion. And I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that we have made tremendous advances in this state on the treatment of minorities, not just African American minorities, but all minorities. In the state Senate itself, we have 18 non-white members right now. That's over a third of the 56 senators. And we're about to have very likely two more unless we can persuade voters of color to elect Republicans. And we'll see that we can do that. And I want the public to recognize that that's our split right now. You know, as we have a third of the Senate are minorities, and it's going to increase. And it is an inclusive state that we have for everybody. We always said that Atlanta and Georgia were too busy to hate, and I like to see that our state government continues to operate the same way. I think the chairman's plan equally addresses those concerns of racial discrimination without changing any partisan advantage that the current system has, and I soundly endorse it.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, then. At this point, well, I guess it's time to vote on LC 472584. That is Senate Bill 1EX. All of those in favor of the motion do pass. Raise your hand. I'm sorry, I'm not voting. All of those opposed to the motion, do the same. Raise your hand. Thank you. The motion passed. That concludes our meetings on the Senate redistricting maps. I'll entertain a motion to dismiss, to adjourn. So moved. Do I have a second? I don't need it? Okay, meeting is adjourned. We've made the motion, we've seconded, we're out.